All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are carried. Next we have is the President's Report. Well, again, nice to see everybody here today on behalf of your board. I hope your holidays are merry, happy, and cheerful. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, best wishes for the new year of 2020. There's an old reading that states, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. By listening to all, we have succeeded by having a great year improving the campus here. Whether it's the redecorating of the interior of the community center, the 20% expansion of the parking lot, adding pickleball as a new amenity for the community, having an active planning committee for our future endeavors, and importantly, younger voices, that is under 70 in our community, starting to express their ideas for the future within committees and independently. To paraphrase an old rock song, I think it was from the late 90s from a band called Timbuk 3, the future, whatever it is, looks so bright, I gotta wear shades. So keep your sunglasses nearby, folks. Things are moving along. Let's look back at this year from the perspective of a unique Pelican Marsh metric. Here's an interesting stat through early in December that supports that owners value Pelican Marsh. 13 of our owners decided this year to relocate within Pelican Marsh and not outside of the community. That fact speaks loudly to the long-standing and ongoing desirability of Pelican Marsh. In recent past years, in contrast, the number of similar types of transactions range between 3 and 7. So that's a pretty positive sign, 13. We'll have more year-end information as the year wraps up as we get into January, but I wanted to share that one with you because I think that's a positive sign for the community. And again, looking forward, here's a few either upcoming or ongoing projects that we have going on right now. So first of all, the repair and the upgrade of the tennis court drainage project should be completed soon. I had the pleasure to be on the courts one morning at 8 o'clock when the saws were cutting into everything, and while that was a bit disruptive, that short-term noise certainly will be worth the improvement. We have a beautiful shade canopy for the area between the pickleball courts and the tennis courts that's been ordered, and the project start date is approximately February 1st, so that'll be nice. And then, things often get pushed back, but here's one that got accelerated. We approved last time the approval of a basketball practice court on what's the southern part of the current playground. As of yesterday, the start date for that was about the 3rd week in January. Well, it's happening starting this week, so that's got accelerated 3 weeks, and I think that's even better. I think that's better for all to get it done, try to get it done before the first of the year. And importantly, I think with the year 2020 ahead of us, I'm excited about the work being done and the work to be done so that we have a little play on words, 2020 vision for the future. But more on that later in new business. Lastly, enjoy yourself and all that Southwest Florida has to offer. Season is here. Please be cautious and alert when driving, biking, jogging, or even walking within Pelican Marsh, and especially by the community center. Thank you very much. Ken, Treasurer's Report.
Thank you. It's going to be short, and I said last time, I'll give you the summary because fortunately or not fortunately, depending on your interest in the financials, next month you're going to have a much extended report because next month we will have the close of our calendar/fiscal year. I'll be going over all the numbers, showing you where we were ahead of budget, behind budget, where we stand. I will give you a summary of a couple of key numbers this afternoon. The first point is just to give you a heads up in case your association, like ours, is with Iberia Bank. Iberia Bank recently signed an agreement and will become part of a bank from Tennessee. I can't think of the name, Paul, but the new bank will be called Horizon. That's the new one. I forget the other. At any rate, we've talked to the principals in town and said, what, if any, impact will it have on your service? And they said, our most profitable service is our service to the community associations, and we see absolutely no negative impact whatsoever. The positive will be that we've got a stronger financial base to be able to lend you more money. And so instead of lending us 10 million, they might be willing to lend us 12. And I made a comment in passing to the presidents that we're starting on a project which we hope to get passed today on long-range planning. And I said, it's time to think outside the box. And so Sandy, who's my mentor, of course, in all things, Sandy said to me, what do you think that means? And I said, well, I already went to Iberia and I said, how much money can we borrow if we decide we need to make major changes, and I mean big-time changes to the concept of this foundation? And they said, whatever you want, because you have to collect the money, or you collect the money and the owners have to pay. So I said, what do you think, Sandy? What if we borrowed $10 million? What do you think? And we figured it out that instead of $50 a month cost for the foundation, it would go all the way up to $100 a month. So what's the point? What is the point of this introduction to think about over the holidays and into next year? We have a long-range planning committee we're going to talk about later on. We have a chance to step back, look out of the box, say, what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? And what's the right thing for our community? What do our owners want? So let's not worry about where the money's going to come from, but in the meantime, let's manage and control the money we have. So in that vein, if I can see the next slide, I'm going to show you a couple of numbers. Just, I guess I have a verbal report. Am I going to have a number? There we go. Just to give you a comfort level that what we said we would do, we're doing. And I would simply look at the capital and the reserve fund. The reserve fund is benefiting substantially from the next slide, which is the number of resales is above budget. And we're beginning the process of rebuilding our reserve fund. Our budget for next year is to continue the rebuilding. We're down somewhat in the capital fund, but on the other hand, we have put our money into the pickleball court. We have some other projects that we've done this year, and the latest of which is we're putting money into what am I doing? I just lost my train of thought. In the tennis court, the drainage center. The drainage of the tennis court. So, good start, strong financial position, and we want to keep it that way. The last slide is a slide that makes a lot of us very happy, and believe it or not, it isn't the money that we're getting, it's the fact that there's still a strong market for living in Pelican Marsh. We generally budget, for those of you that are not financially focused, we generally budget 100 resales a year, and that is net resales. That means if you've lived in Pelican Marsh and you buy another home, you don't have to pay to make that move anymore. So this is new people in the community, and this is through November. So we still have another month. We've got a dozen pending sales, and we're already 7 over the 100 that we budgeted for the year. So if you come down to the numbers, so far we're running $28,000 over our expected level of income from resales, and every closing we have in the month of December will add $4,000 to that number. So when I give the presentation in January, we should we should be somewhere between 110, 115 over budget. And per the board's plan, we, for the next couple of years, are putting all of that money into the reserves capital and moving that operating income over right away. So you'll see that again. You'll see detail, line item level detail for the financials in January, but we've had a very good year. In the budget process, we thought we might be around 40,000 ahead of break even in our operating budget, and we still expect that to occur. So we had a good financial year. We're putting money into reserves for the future, and we're pretty excited about the way things are moving into next year. So with that, I will pass. I'm done.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Paul?
Paul? You?
No.
Okay. How many, we're over $32,000 in operating, what's that attributed to?
We're over 32,000 in operating. What are you looking at?
It says 11-month budget's 160, 11-month actual is 192. That's $32,000 to the plus.
Well, that's all part of, you're talking,
The next slide.
you're on the, yeah, you're on the, go to the last slide. He's asking a question of what we're over. That's part of the resale fee. We're over in all of those. We budgeted 400,000 in resale from 100 resales. We've already closed 107, and the way we distribute that is 45% operating, 30 reserve, 25% capital. And again, just as a reminder, all of the operating monies from resales are then transferred into the reserve and capital accounts to build them up. And so by the end of the year, we will be even further ahead of the 180 budget, the 120 budget, and the 100 capital budget. Okay, Jerry?
Okay.
And go back to the first slide.
Right now, this is just at the board level, Gary.
Well, then, the board's missing an item, so that's why.
Well, that was meant to be just a short summary, because next month you're going to have to put up with me for quite a while, since I'll be giving you a rather detailed summary of the year end. The bottom line is I simply wanted to make the point that we expect the end of the year to be where we showed you in September and we projected, but in January you get to see the whole thing, including the above and under. Dave?
Okay, Paul, why don't you proceed then with managers?
Okay, soon the holidays will be over and we'll be beginning a new year. This is the time of year when the community center starts getting really busy with everyone back for the season. We encourage everyone and all the residents to make sure they're registered with the foundation website and have provided their email address so that we can keep them updated on upcoming events and activities. And please remember to follow the speed limit and stop signs when coming through the community, because there's many members out walking and or biking and enjoying the weather. So let's keep everybody safe this season. The Foundation's 2020 yearly maintenance dues were mailed out a few weeks ago. Many members will be receiving this assessment through their neighborhood associations that they live in. Just please make sure that you get this assessment paid by the due date on the invoice. And a copy of the 2020 approved budget is available on the Pelican Marsh website for those who want to see where the money goes towards as far as funding the Foundation's budget. As everyone starts to put their New Year's resolutions together, please make sure that you include your home to be checked out for any cleaning and or repairs that are needed to be done. With the rains of the summer, along with humidity, it causes a lot of dirt and mildew buildup on the roads, driveways, walkways, and the walls of your home. It's important that you maintain your home and keep up this necessary cleaning as per the Foundation rules and regulations, as well as just being a good neighbor and keeping Pelican Marsh looking its best throughout the year. Dave already mentioned a lot of things we're doing now as far as continuing with the new addition and upgrades with the amenities. And also to include on David's list is we're now currently today also installing a new wired internet mesh system. So now we'll have a very strong Wi-Fi signal throughout the entire community center building, and also a signal that's strong enough to be reached out on the tennis courts and the parking lot. In addition, this new system will also allow us to add wireless camera systems out on the exterior for security measures in the future. 255 letters were mailed out about 3 weeks ago to those residents who had not converted yet over to the new fiber optic cable system with Comcast, as a final reminder that they need to get this system installed no later than by the end of this January, because Comcast is scheduled to shut down the old system by mid-February of next year, and those homes who have not made the conversion will lose their internet and TV service and will be stuck with having to wait until Comcast can come out then and install the system, and on top of that pay for an install fee for the system, which is now free to get done. So we're encouraging every homeowner who has received this letter to act now and make the necessary phone calls to get this scheduled to have it installed. And again, if you have any questions on this process, please give us a call in the admin office and we'll walk you through what to do. And lastly, staff and I want to wish everyone a happy holiday and New Year's celebration. And always remember, the staff is here to help out any way we can. We want to make sure everyone has a great experience when using the amenities and services here at the Foundation. And that's my report.
Thank you, Paul. Paul, just a couple of questions. With regard to the 255 letters that we sent out, have we had any response to your knowledge?
Yes, we've had probably at least 50 plus responses. Some didn't realize we had a new system going in at all.
Okay.
So, anyway, but we've, some thought they were already converted, but they just basically, they called in to get a new box, but their old box wasn't working, that gave us a new system.
Okay.
Anyway, we've explained to them the system, and they made the necessary phone calls, so hopefully we'll have this, I can guarantee all of them done by mid-February, but hopefully at least a good portion of them will be done.
Okay, and then has Comcast, either Raphael or one of the other employees that we work with, have they submitted that formal plan yet, or is that still?
No, that's still in the works, but yes, Comcast will be actually executing and sending a formal plan of the process and timeline of the shutdown of the system, so you can see on the timeline when they're going to shut the system down and when they're going to start pulling out the old equipment and boxes in the yards, so everybody has an idea. So you can pre-plan for if you have landscape projects in your community, know when that project will happen.
Last month, you may recall, if you were here at the board meeting, we talked briefly about Comcast, and I was holding a check because I wasn't satisfied with what was going on. Well, we did have a good meeting with them, with 3 of their representatives, with a couple of the board members, and we feel okay, and that's why I wanted to follow up with the plan. That was an idea that came up, so we released the check, so business as usual. All right, Paul, thank you. That brings us to...
Any other questions? Speaking of Comcast, we were at that meeting.
Yes.
They mentioned the fact that we possibly would lose Star channels.
Yes.
We did.
Mhm.
What are the replacement channels? And no notice provided to anybody. We got the notice that said maybe they were going to lose Stars. That maybe became 24 hours later.
Yeah, well, we
Yeah, I
saw
know.
how fast it was going at the meeting.
You know, no notice, no replacement notice. Okay, you send them a check, stop payment on it.
Ah,
They also stopped Turner Classic.
And well, again, Turner Classic, the answer to Turner Classic is if you want Classic, do you have a remote that you can speak into?
Yes.
Okay, ask for Classic Movies. Okay, that'll give you a range of potential
I
Classic
didn't
movies.
have them.
Huh?
I did, I tried that and I got lousy.
Yeah, well,
I saw hundreds segregated by action, comedy, romance.
Oh, you did.
anyways, but the Star Mission, that was like 5 channels or 6 channels.
Yeah, I was not aware.
Huh?
I was not aware that Star went away, but I never watched it, so.
Yeah, it went away the next day.
Well, they did say that one of the problems, just
With your football.
a point that they made in there are two levels of concern. One is impact to our community with regards to the change of the technology, and the other is issues related to Comcast in general. And during the meeting, they made the point that one of the major outages that we all saw happened to occur all over the country. They had a technology breakdown. The second point he made is that the environment for Comcast in negotiating with some of these channels has changed because these channels now have so many other sources they can go to be able to get on with viewers, that their negotiating positions are tougher. And so he said, for example, we are currently negotiating with Star, and we really don't know where it's going. And one of the vice presidents looked across the table and he said, oh, I can tell you where it's going. I think we're going to lose it this afternoon. So we said, well, is there any way you can let us know? And he said, well, we don't know until we lose it that we're going to lose it. And we don't want to say to people, we might lose it because we're negotiating all the time. So that's number two. But in terms of our ability, we can't just hold checks because they're having some issues. So we gave them the check and they said they would do everything they could going forward to try to help us. I don't know whether it was Jerry or Dave or myself, but they said this handheld machine that you have that you think is just a remote is almost strong enough that it'll answer your questions. He said, for example, if you ask it how tall the Empire State Building is, it will give you an answer. If you want to watch classic movies, go home and say classic movies. And so I know the three of us did. We went home and it said, do you want traditional classic, comedy classic, thriller classics? And there were hundreds. And then underneath the movie, it told you whether they could get it for you or whether it was through one of the pay things. So we said, why don't you just tell us what you're doing and tell us the quality of the service instead of having us find out we are or are not going to get it. And they went like this, so who knows?
I have a question.
Their answer, it's all basically money. They're having a great deal of difficulty because the streaming industry is taking over a lot of their menu. The answer to why they lost TMC was that if you took a look across the entire nation, the use from TMC, 85% of it comes from Florida. The rest of the country only uses 15%. So guess what? Old enough to watch TMC.
Right, today, they'll give you.
So the question I have is, how does our contract address programming? Are we always in the position that whatever they can negotiate and provide, that's what we get? Or was there something in our contract that said, wait a minute, if you drop this and that, then is a renegotiation on fees acceptable?
I don't know.
Whatever they have.
I'm certain we don't have control over their program.
Of course.
We probably have some
What?
form of recourse if they were to lose everything. Let's say streaming captivated 90% of their channels. I'm sure we'd have some recourse, but Jim, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I think it bears down to the fact that if they're changing something, it's good to give out the notice and let people know.
Yeah, that's.
Because it's really the basic function of how the company works, okay? We'll do it later, we'll tell you after. So that's the issue.
So we're still paying them when really we could just go on streaming for free. I mean, I get Tubi free, and I get a lot of other stations with Roku. I buy the thing for $58, one-time fee, and I watch all the stations, movies I want.
It's coming to them.
It's gonna come to that, but
Yeah.
how they're gonna get you, okay, is if you use their internet service, which is the Xfinity service. Okay, when you tie into one of these other streaming services, they're gonna charge you a premium to do that.
Well, I'm doing that
So you're
already.
paying a double premium before it's all over, guys.
Also, keep in mind that for those of us that have another home where we also have Comcast, we're paying over twice as much a month for the same coverage. So when we get a little frustrated, keep in mind that you're talking about a substantial beneficial impact to the contract. And when there are issues, the issues, to the extent that they want us happy, they're trying to do everything they can, because we are one of the early on areas that have been upgraded. So we will always have issues with them. They've been very good at trying to work with us. They've given us credits. You might recall a couple months ago when I put some more detailed financials, they gave us pretty substantial credit this year because of some of these issues. So I think we have a good working relationship with them, but that doesn't mean that they're not perfect, or that they are perfect, I should say.
Paul, if you could draft a letter to your choice, Raphael, or whoever, to say, we need communication when something gets taken away from us,
Well, I've had
rather
this,
than finding it out.
the thing is, I've had this conversation with Raphael and Virgil. Raphael mostly saying, listen, could you at least give us a little forewarning so I'm prepared, rather than be caught next day coming in and saying, where did TMC go? And they said, because they don't know what will happen, when it will happen, they cannot, or no, when the court will not allow them to send a letter out saying, this might happen.
Sure, but, all right, I understand that part, but after it's fait accompli, such is the case after the day of our meeting, stars disappear.
They should see, but notice
Yes.
that FYI,
They can communicate that.
Okay.
I think it's important to stay on top of it because they're going to take away, and we're going to still be paying. And just like, you got to be like Trump, we're going to give, and we want something back for what we're paying. So it's good to stay on top of it.
Good point.
Arthur?
I read about the taking away of Turner Classic in Hines or wherever, and I called them, and they offered to sell it to me.
Yes.
They still have it.
Oh,
They still
yes.
have it, so they offered to sell it to me.
Oh, it's a premium,
If
isn't
it was, I don't care, if it was a penny, I wouldn't give it to them
Right.
because it was part of our deal. As far as Stars is concerned,
Yes.
they have Comcast, or at Stars, 70% of the customers that are Stars customers belong to Comcast. So it's whatever they told you, they said we're having a hard time negotiating, they're the ones in the driver's seat, not Stars.
It didn't
What
sound that way
they
at
will
the top.
they will sell it to you as a streaming service.
Well,
It'll be
they
another
have
source
said
of
that
revenue for Comcast.
that there will be occasions where they will just make it a premium channel, and you can still get it if you want it.
Yeah,
If they can't negotiate, and then they'll charge.
Yeah, but it was part of the sweetener to get that. I have a friend on the East Coast, his association negotiated Showtime and HBO. So they have that for free. They're trying to take away the sweetener, the incentives that they gave our association. Stars is a premium channel. I used to pay for that because I like Stars. And I paid for it. It was like $10 or $12 a month. Now, and then it became part of the contract. And that was a sweetener. So now they're saying we're taking it away from you. Their problem with negotiations, that's their problem, not ours. In other words, I sign a contract with you, if I sign a contract with a contractor and his costs go up, that's his problem, not mine.
We should.
Dave, I have one more
Just-
question for Paul.
Well, wait a minute, I want to make a point that you made. I think Jim's point's a good point. We need to go back into the contract, because none of us were part of the original negotiation, and I'm not familiar with the level of detail in the contract related to what channels they're supposed to provide. So we need to do a better job.
They have the right to change the channel based on program negotiation. There's nothing in the contract that says that if we take away channel A, they must replace with one channel.
I'm not sure anybody heard
So
that.
I have read the contract. It basically essentially says that Comcast has the right to remove or change channels at times with negotiation with programming. However, there's a portion of the contract that says, however, if they change the channel or take it away, then they have to replace it with a like channel.
That's
It is
Does not say that.
Paul, it's an implied, it's something implied, because we got a premium channel for nothing. So now they want to take it away. That's because revenue goes out, they have to pay for it.
Gotta watch it.
Dave, I have just a quick question for Paul. Paul, in the communities that we manage, do we have a regular scheduled inspection tour for roofs, any other things, as you mentioned, this time to make sure that these roofs are clean, et cetera, so that they get notice from us? Our own gated communities do that, but since they are in our purview, I think I just a question, do we have a regular scheduled maintenance inspection?
I do it for the non-gated Sweet Bay, Arbors, and Gables communities, and any roof I can see down the boulevard that's visible, I will take note and go in the community to get the address. But for those that are maybe dirty but can't be seen from the public, and then I don't check those out.
But I thought our rules and regulations spoke to that issue, so I mean, that's the reason I raised it, because it used to be that in design review used to cover that, and if your roof was dirty, you got a message.
If we know about it, I mean, now that the design review committee, roofs are now the responsibility of the HOAs as far as replacement and coloring. But again, the overall guidelines of the foundation state you have to maintain your home. But I'm not going into communities that are gated to check the homes individually, unless I can see them from Foundation Boulevard.
Yeah, gated community is not my concern, it's the non-gated ones, and since I don't think they should be on a different standard than the gated communities, therefore, if you drove through one and saw a dirty roof, as we did in the past, design review used to, they used to send them a notice and say it's time to clean your roof. I think I'm right on that, Jerry.
In the old days, that's what I did.
In the old days, that was the way. Wait a minute, guys, where are we on the schedule? I don't, somehow we just flipped onto something and I have no idea where we are.
It's on the manager's report.
Thank you.
And the non-gated, non-managed communities, Arbors, Sweet Bay, and Gables, I do drive through those communities and inspect. If I see something that either dirty roof or home, we will then send a letter to them.
That was my question.
Yeah,
Gated communities, that's their problem.
But if the gated community has a home that can be visible from the boulevard, we do note that and write it up.
Thank you, Paul. Now we're going to go on to old business. In old business, we have the conversion of the computer room to the massage therapy room for fitness. So, Paul, why don't you make a few comments?
Okay, so over the past 7 years, demand for massage and therapy services has increased by 300%. And as of last month's meeting, Patrick Webb, our fitness director, gave us some analysis and some slides showing that increase. And as this demand has increased, it has become more difficult for Patrick and his staff and contractors to find space in the community center to provide these services at times when members would like to come in for the services. For example, we added a new service over the last part of last summer, stretch therapy, and however this contractor providing service, we had to move that person several times throughout the day between the meeting rooms, the aerobics room, and sometimes finding space in the fitness center to find available space to provide the stretch therapy service. And obviously with season arriving and these areas become more or less available because of the meetings and other functions we have going on. We also found that many members, when they come in to schedule a service, they like to have these services in the mornings or early afternoons. And by adding another dedicated space for these services, it would open up our scheduling to provide more available time slots to members that they would want. So we thought maybe it'd be good at this point if we took the computer room and made it into a dedicated massage therapy room for fitness. And we would just buy laptops, wireless laptops to be used by members who want internet access for the web, and they could just have those laptops and move throughout the community center lobby where they wanted to sit. However, we found that although the older residents didn't like the laptops, and honestly, they are hard to maneuver the mouse with the mouse pads, and they like the old traditional, computers on desk. So we decided the library, with some reconfiguration, had space to add 2 desks with the traditional computers and printers in there. So we can take what we had in the computer room and just move it and converge it with the library and have enough space to run both services out of that same room. So that's what we have done. We've now taken the library and converted it to now a library/computer room. And plus have the addition of the laptops also available to residents to go out throughout the lobby, if they'd like to. So we thought that would be the best option, and utilizing the space of the foundation for all the members. So that's what, even though we've temporarily got it set up that way, we can definitely make it permanent. We want to get a approval from the board to make it permanent in that action.
Board discussion?
I have two questions.
Carolyn,
I'm sorry, I turned it back.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay, I have 2 questions. How many laptops are available?
2.
2 laptops available, and there will be 2 standalone computers now in the library. How many standalone computers were there in the computer room before?
We had 3.
Okay, thank you.
It was just one printer.
One
There was
printer.
1 printer, and there's still 1 printer, right?
So now we have 2 dedicated computer stations desks with their independent owned printer and 2 laptops, which are wired to the front desk printer for printing.
So it sounds like there's actually more computer access.
We've now technically increased our access to computers.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the utilization of the current massage rooms. I guess my question is bigger than that. What, are we in a business of providing space for massage therapists, for stretch specialists? I mean, we have a space problem. And is what we're doing the highest and best use of space? Or are we trying to, I see the increase in gross revenue, I guess that's a gross number, but we're not, and if I remember right, what do we get, 10% or 20% of that? 20. So for $16,000 a year, am I led to believe that I should inconvenience a portion of a senior population in Pelican Marsh so some people can have more convenience for massages or stretches? I have a great deal of difficulty with that.
Jim, let me comment because I had a long talk with Patrick. Are you still, Patrick, are you here or did you leave? I had a long talk with Patrick this morning as both of us were watching them trying to cut into the back where the children's currently have their play area, which will now be expanded into basketball. And it's just interesting how thick that soft padding is. So the poor guy was trying to cut. So anyway, we had a whole bunch of time to talk. And I think there are 2 points. One is there's a whole population of our owners which we tend not to think of because we don't see them. They come in, they go to the foundation, they might go into the fitness center, they might come in and they might have a massage, but there are a lot of people. His numbers, if you look at the support numbers that he has for the volume of people that use the fitness center and get massages, it isn't just that we only get 20% of the money, it's that we provide an important service to a large number of our community. So what Patrick said, he wanted to ensure that we gave the option for the computer to support it. So you're not really inspired. I love your shirts, by the way.
Thank you.
So in the end, we don't think that you're losing the computer room, it's a different room, but we're trying to provide service. And again, I want to reinforce the fact that we're about ready to talk about a long-range planning process. We have a lot of owners and a couple of presidents that said at the last president's meeting, we've been members of this community for 20 years, we're the older guys. Nobody pays attention to us anymore. we would like somebody to think about us. Well, here's a case where a bunch of people that feel the need to get massage services or stretching services that we think is a good service to provide for the community. And I think Patrick's doing a good thing, and I support it strongly.
My only comments would be just anecdotal to Ken's. We moved it, we improved it. And frankly, that room in the past, when I'd go in there, it kind of brought me back to the 70s. I wanted to get my Jimi Hendrix posters with the black lights and all. It was dark and dingy in there, and I was saying, hey, you know, that's a computer room? You don't see computer rooms that are dark and dingy. So I think what you have now is you have the flexibility to be mobile within the community center, and if you want to be at a station with a printer, your own dedicated printer, it's right there. So, and since '97, I probably used that room once or twice.
Well,
But
we're still
the board level.
we're still at the board level, so it's not that we don't want to answer.
That's why we're not saying it.
Okay.
Well, as time goes on, you're going to end up increasing uses in one area and decreasing uses in another area. One of the things that we have to attune ourselves to is that we can't make decisions, okay, for the comfort level of those that are working for us. Okay? And what I'm talking about that is that Patrick and the girls that work, or the females that work, okay, at the massage area, they don't want to work past a certain hour. Okay? So everybody's trying to push X services into X time frame with X rooms. You know, the golf course, everybody wants to play between 8 and 10:30. In the wintertime, they'll stretch it until noon because it's cooler. Nobody builds another 18 holes. So you have to take a look at what you're doing, okay, overall. There's no reason you couldn't expand the number of hours and the number of, you know, after 3 o'clock or after 4 o'clock. There's no rule against that. The rule is being made by those that are not running this board.
In the end, you have to provide a service to the community at the hours that they would like to attend. And it is hard for a lot of people who just don't want to come in late in the afternoon. So we're trying to provide, excuse me,
Yeah.
we're trying to provide a service based on the needs of the people in the community. And where we think we can make changes that benefit the people in the community, then it's our responsibility to try to figure out how to make it work. And we don't make all these changes just to make the changes. I don't believe that's the board's responsibility. But on the other hand, if you, as Dave said, if we end up helping both ends of this, then do it.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, the proof of the pudding will be next year, 2020, to see what the increase is over and above that $83,000 for the addition of that room. Okay, then you'll know what your answer is.
What's the 800,000 for?
Is it open to the floor?
Yeah, we'll open it up to Gary. Go ahead.
All right, well, two issues, and I'm not a massage person, so it doesn't matter to me, and I'm not, but you still have that big room in the fitness center that has various equipment and various shelving that could be put on the outside of the wall, okay? And you could use that as a stretching room if you wanted to. Number two, and I suggest you go there, you have now taken away what our website says is a computer center, okay? And there is no longer a computer center here at Pelican Marsh, which you have now decreased the value of my home. You increased the value of my home with the pickleball, now you decreased the value of my home.
Change it
by
to say it's a
taking away-
computer and library center,
Well,
so it's
but-
expanded even
But you
more.
better change it, because you haven't changed
That's a
it.
good point.
Okay, so please, go to the website and change, there's no longer a computer center, like most communities have.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Would you like the microphone?
I'm pretty loud.
Okay.
I'll be just fine.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I will. Bernie McLaughlin. I live in Claremont, and I've been a resident for 11 years, and I'm a full-time resident now for the last 2. I want to thank the board, and I want to thank the staff for the tremendous job they do. My issue, and I won't get lost in the weeds, my issue is the computer room and how you went at it. Okay? During the summer, all of a sudden, it had benign neglect. Nothing was in there, nothing operated. All of a sudden, the equipment started moving out of the back room. The printer went, and one of the computers. As Gary has said, on our website, it says we have a computer facility. Real estate agents point that out. When you do your $4,000 transfer fee, that's one of the things you get along with the $1,500. If you're going to take it away, there's a process. You'll bring it before the board. Don't sneak it out in the middle of the night. Bring it before the board and let us have input. Okay? We're entitled to that. I went to see Paul and had a very cordial meeting with him a week ago Monday. And I pointed out a few things. Talked about the fact that paper and soft goods were being wasted, the cartridges, whatever. And I said to him, how come we've never had a training program? Particularly how to print out a document as opposed to doing sorting and printing out the whole booklet. No one's ever showed anyone that. And that's one of the problems. Also, when we have a problem, address the individual. If there's somebody wasting stuff, or send out an email. Okay, so that's one of the things I had a problem with. The other thing I had a problem with is we didn't come up with a computer room until the last few weeks. What we did is put some personal computers out there and then said, I gotta go as a homeowner to the front desk and have them print out my documents. Medical documents, financial documents, none of their business. I'm a homeowner, I'm not a student, Paul's not the principal. And that's my point. Okay? I don't know what we have now. We're starting to move real quick on this. I don't know how much money is being spent on this either. Was that approved?
Well, the computers, first of all, the computers in the library will have printers, dedicated printers.
I see
So
that.
the privacy thing is taken care of. But you're right, if you're going to use a tablet and you're going to print, and it's something confidential, you probably should go into the library to do that.
Do you understand what my point is? My point is there was an incomplete or no plan to deal with moving the computer room from one place to another. And now we're fixing it up on the fly because we got issues. I've seen older residents, owners here come in, they're in tears, they can't get an airline ticket printed out. This is the kind of problem you have. And none of this was thought about. But I would like to see some training so that we can cut down the expenses. And I appreciate all you do. You really work very hard. But this really stuck to me when I saw one of my elderly neighbors breaking out in tears. And it's not right.
Just as a reminder, this was done unfortunately without the board realizing it, and we made that point at the last meeting, and we said to Patrick and to Paul, would you do us a favor, please, go back, let us know why you're doing what you're doing, rethink the process, come up with a solution that's of benefit to everybody. And so the point today at the meeting was their response to the board's request to do it right.
And let me add to that, it wasn't management doing anything nefarious. Management did communicate to every board member in July minutes, summarizing Paul's meeting with the executive committee of the activity that went on. And
No discussion, no decision.
I know,
That's
but
correct.
the point
No
was,
owner into it.
the point was, nobody on the board, everyone on the board got that information, everyone on the board read that information. That was the end of July. And then management went ahead and moved and started making these changes, and that's when it came to our
It's
attention.
so
That's why we're doing it
Dave,
today.
isn't this the problem that we've had in terms of discussion of open committee meetings, including the executive committee? If you had those open meetings, perhaps Bernie wouldn't be standing here right now.
No, the fact of the
You're
matter
doing
is,
this, you did this quietly, And I'm sure you meant well, and I say that respectfully. And you said memos went out to board members.
Well, and it wasn't like
a guy
quietly
goes in there, a
secret.
guy goes in there to print something out, and all of a sudden, everything's gone.
The,
The other interesting point, just let me make a comment.
Okay.
If you weren't here at the last meeting,
I was.
I was.
you were. I asked everybody to raise their hand. Who used that room in the last month? No hand. Last 3 months, no hands. Last 6 months, no hands. Last 12 months, no
It's
hands.
not good, it's
I
not
don't think,
good.
But it was not that
my
many.
feeling is
You
that's
see
not
the
what you're
transient
saying.
residents.
That's not what I'm saying, I'm talking about the whole process. I don't know how many people, I asked Paul, what kind of money are we spending? If, you know, is it the minimus? But we pay for stuff here that doesn't carry it, that doesn't have a profit center or neutral revenue. We pay for that because we want it. That's not really the issue. The issue is you took the computer room away without having another option for us. We're telling people who are buying there's a computer room here, real estate agents point that out. Anybody who bought, by the way, your computer room wasn't here for the last 4 months. And
You have
that's
a
the
computer
idea.
room, it just moved around the corner into a more private area.
It moved
instead of
around the
being-
corner, maybe tomorrow, it's not hooked up yet, there's been nothing here since late summer.
Okay,
That's the
okay, it's
point.
fine.
Guys,
All right, but let's just back off now.
I am.
We agree, it got lost through the cracks. It won't be the last thing that gets lost in the cracks. We try as much as possible for all the money that we're paid to do this job and all the time that we spend, there are things that get through us, and this was a good example. And we all are complicit in it because we all got the memo, and I know, I was in Ireland at the time. I didn't even read the damn memo, but that's not an excuse. The point is, we caught it, we went back to the fellas, we said, you gotta do this thing, you gotta bring it before us in a formal way, and what happened as a result of that is they did some things they hadn't done before. They said, well, you know what, we really didn't finish the thought process. I'm comfortable that they have tried to put together something that worked, but it was not done the first time. There's a lot of stuff these guys do that are good things. We've got Johan, we've got Patrick, we've got Lynn. They work very hard, but none of us, and the board,
But they're human like all of us.
but this went through the cracks. I think we fixed it, but here's the other part. Anytime anyone in this community has a problem with anything, and we say this all the time, we all have emails. Paul will talk to anyone, anytime. That's the way we'll get it done. We will not always be perfect. We try, but we're not. But I think we solved it. I think we might not have done it the way that it should have been done, but I think we've got something now that works.
The issue also was, that computer room was sitting there empty with everything pulled out, and they put in a stretching equipment, the table, and just left it there. Nobody was using it. In the meantime, we had no computer room. And this has gone on for a bunch of months.
Bernie,
So I don't
I
want to beat a dead horse,
I
but
think we agree with you, and I appreciate what you're saying, and you're absolutely correct. It was the process, it was the way it was done, and I would just like to ask you, do you feel like the current proposal will satisfy people?
I hope
I
so.
mean, the end part, because we acknowledge the process was not good and didn't include people's, community members' input. And I can imagine if you use that room and then suddenly you go in and it's not there, how that felt. And we totally appreciate your coming and expressing that. But is the current situation something that you would feel comfortable with?
Is there going to be appropriate lighting over the computer? Because we got 2 rows of lighting. I don't know whether that's going to be a problem for.
I'm sure it'll be a lot better than that dark room was.
Well, no, he's asking, is it going to be, yeah,
Fair enough.
he wants appropriate lighting, and I think we'll definitely look at that, right?
I know what Paul's going to do. Paul's going to keep you in the middle of the loop the whole time because you were strong enough
Yes.
to get up and make a presentation to us, and I appreciate it. But get him involved. Let him review the stuff with you. Here's a guy that's very interested in it. Let's take advantage of that and use him. And then when we're done I'll have you say yes, and then we're happy.
The goal is to have that room operational today. We had the computers in there already, it's all working. Just need to get the network connections in those rooms, which is happening today. So it should be happening by the end of the day. First tomorrow morning, we'll have those computer rooms up and running. You can go in there and use the computer room as you did in the past.
Paul, is the printer in the library computer room now, is that printer Wi-Fi available?
No, those are directly wired to the computers. So each computer has its own.
My comment would be is if you put a Wi-Fi in there, even though you can have it directed, if you take a Wi-Fi receiver, then people that are on the pads.
We can do that too, yes. They are Wi-Fi compatible, so yes, you can connect the laptops to those computers.
Because if they're worried about,
Sure.
confidentiality, and that's a good answer, good consideration. So if you had your laptop, and then you get in there and said to somebody, hey, I'm going to be printing something here in a minute, if you don't mind, they could use the laptop
You
and
have to
print.
wait till the snowbirds come down and see it, because their ink may have dried up in their computer printers, they come down here. You haven't seen the usage yet.
Yeah, but you know something, we can't run kindergarten here.
Jerry, I'm not saying you
Okay.
can,
I'm absolutely amazed, and this is 2019, this is antiquated. Why don't people have their own computer and their own printer at home? They're so cheap. I mean, come on.
That's why I don't think anybody rose their hand last month when they asked the question.
This gentleman's got his
Paul,
Paul Markarian. I think this discussion has,
would you like the microphone? Paul, can hear you?
I think this discussion has ignored another interest, and that interest is for a library. Our library is really inadequate. It's basically a closet storing shelves of books. And there are other communities like Bentley Village. It has a wonderful library, it has a volunteer librarian, it has periodicals and books. And this has never been discussed or considered in this.
It's not a library, it's a storage room for books. The library is 2 blocks down the street.
We know that communities have their own space for reading.
Well, Bentley Village is out in nowhere.
Bentley Village is a retirement community.
Sure, we're not.
It would
Not
be
even the
nice to
same
have a
place.
look. Have you ever sat and watched the television which has been drowned out by conversations in the hall?
Let's listen
It's
to,
an
let's
echo
give this
chamber
gentleman
here.
his
And
back.
sometimes there's not a place,
Hey, Paul, bring the microphone up closer to you.
there's not a place to read in quiet.
In all
I
deference, to your point,
There are some people who have intellectual interests rather than physical interests.
I have a suggestion, excuse me, I have a suggestion. We're going to be talking about specific projects, we're going to be talking about long-term planning. Maybe this is a good suggestion for one of those two committees to consider expanding or doing something different with our library that would satisfy more people. That's all. It's not going to be done today. It's something that can be done in the planning process. That's all.
That sounds like a good idea, but I think also when the space in the library was expropriated, someone should have said, hey, what about people who like to read books or sit in quiet and read? I mean, it would be a real enhancement to our community to have a reasonable sized room with books and periodicals that's shielded from the noise in the halls.
Thank you, Paul.
I'm going to give you the history of that library. That's okay.
There was
Steve,
no library.
There was no
Steve, why don't you say a word and then we're going to move on.
Okay, so
Next case.
Two shelves.
Order, please.
it sounds to me like these are examples of the community having outgrown this facility. And so I think that all of the concern I'm hearing here is about space. And we need more of it. And so we need a comprehensive community-wide plan that supports
That's what Ken mentioned.
that creation of space. And that's where I think our energies and thoughts and feelings have to go. In the meantime, I suggest you guys get a sign that says Media Center and plant that outside the library, and that will cover a lot of bases.
Good point.
We have an open discussion available at the end that says resident comments. We have things we need to do. Just to remind everybody, this is a board meeting, and so we need to go through our process. At the end, we can open it up. Some of our members can't stay the whole time, and we have things we need to get past. But a point, Steve's point is online, and I made a lighthearted comment in the financials that I think people might want to take seriously. And that is, when we do our long-range planning, we need to think outside the box. We need to think, do we need a new facility? We need to think, do we need a parking garage? We need to think all these things that we said, we can't have this, we can't have that. We need to open up, because we have 100 new owners every single year. Now that's a pretty good number. That's 100 that's 100 homes are sold. So we have 200 or 300 new people coming into our community every year. The long-range planning, which is next on the list, is needed. And Steve, I support your point completely.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion approving the conversion of the computer room to the massage therapy room.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further board discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, 6-1. Thank you. Okay, going on to new business. Ken's mentioned a little bit of that. I was going to make an introduction, but at the last meeting, some members of the Long-Term Facilities Planning Committee expressed their concern about they're happy to do projects, but they're not ready to do the long-range planning and all that entails, and they don't have the experience for that. And we're fortunate enough that Paige Giannetti spoke up at the last meeting and provided some information. She's been in this business for a couple decades. And we also went back and looked at our July communication via email to residents, asking those who have an interest in that area. Well, actually, we asked for every committee if you have an interest. And we actually got some nice names. So what we're thinking of doing is creating a long-range planning committee with some new faces, some new people with experience in the industry, and they could have all kinds of adjunct residents helping that have a specialty, whether it be marketing or real estate or whatever the specialty is, to complement that. But this way we would have a group that's just focusing on that, and we would continue with the Facilities Planning Committee, and we drop the long-term stuff and just call it the Facilities Planning Committee. And that way we could think outside of the box, we could throw things against the wall, see what sticks, see what falls off, what ideas are good. Talk, use all kinds of communication, not just talk, but use a variety of communications to the owners to see what they want. Jerry mentioned, instead of the survey, do a questionnaire, ask some questions about that. I'm going to leave it up to that, if we approve that, I will leave that up to the committee, and Jim Carter will head both of those, he will be the liaison for both of those committees. Board member comments on the subject, 10.1.
Do we want to have a motion that we discussed?
Let me take care of that. Consistent with what you stated, Dave, I would like to make a motion to change the name of the long-range
Use the
facility.
mic, Jeff.
Use your mic.
I'd like to make a motion to change the name of the Long-Range Facilities Planning Committee to the Long-Range Committee, and then to create a new committee called a Facilities Project Committee, which will work with and assist the Long-Range Committee in bringing projects to fruition. That's my motion.
Could you please inject the word long-range planning in that motion, please?
Yeah.
I thought I did.
No, you missed the word planning, you said long-range committee.
Sorry. I'll amend it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, board members?
I think you need to separate the two. Okay, if you're going to be effective, you need consideration of what has to be done in the near term versus what is going to be happening in the long term. Long term, if you went from the smallest project available, which is a long-term project, you're talking a 2 to 3 year scenario that's down the road. You don't want to mix apples, okay, and pears, where short-term considerations are something that can happen within a fiscal year or less. Okay, so I don't understand where the short-term committee is going to throw stuff into the long-range committee. It doesn't make sense. You got two different entities, you got two different requirements. If you went out to the population and said, what do you need tomorrow? They'll tell you this. And what would you like to see in 2 years from now? They'll tell you something else. So you got two distinct areas of concern. I think they have to be separated. Two different entities, working separately, two different criteria. Okay? So mixing and matching apples and pears has not worked in my lifetime.
I'm now really confused because that is exactly what we're planning on doing. That is what we've talked about, that is what Jeff has just talked about. We've got, like, may I finish? Mark would continue to take the role of what amounts to a project-focused committee, but with a liaison with our friend down the corner, Jim Carter, as the liaison. Then a whole new committee, which is a long-range planning committee with Paige Gianetti, who, for those of you that were at the last meeting, you heard her get up and talk. We as a board, she presented us with a lot of background information regarding what she's done and her ideas. She would be an ideal lead person. And then she and Jim, as the liaison, will be going out asking for people with background to get involved. But that is strictly long-range planning. They're the people that are going to spend the $10 million that I keep giving them. So they can do whatever they want. But I don't, and then,
Excuse me? Where did we decide we'll give anybody $10 million?
That's a figure of speech.
it's meant to basically say, open up and think beyond the box.
You already started negotiations with the bank.
Sure.
You opened up negotiations with the bank.
Well, I did and I didn't. I mean, we just discussed it like anybody would. In fact, if you're president of an association, you can do the same
All
thing.
right, I'm calling the meeting to order
You
here.
lost control of the meeting here.
No, I just got control of the meeting. This is still at the board level, so no comments, please.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. I was originally on what is now the long-range facilities, whatever, the original committee that Mark now chairs, which it's being proposed will become the Facilities Project Committee. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. My question is, when people originally went on that committee, in their minds, because there was long-range planning in the title, maybe they felt that that's what was going on. Can people from that particular committee who are not so much project-oriented, but want to look at the longer, bigger picture, welcome to be on the second committee, the new committee?
They're welcome to express an interest on that, and through Paige, as the chairperson of that committee, she will come up with the names that will be presented to the board for our approval.
Okay, so there's no problem with coming up?
Expressing an interest.
That's fine, great.
Not committed.
That's great, great.
Well, actually, I think we should be sending a notice out asking for people to serve on either or, because if some of the people leave the project planning group to come over to long-range planning, but that would be up to the current chair of short-range project planning to determine if he wants to invite more people to his committee. But long-range, I think we need to reach out to the community and ask.
We will, again, I think Paige will take care of that. We did
I
get,
don't think that's her job, with all due respect. I think it's the board's job through our manager to send the notification to the community to solicit.
it's minutia, details, whether she does it through Paul or she works with Paul and Paul gets it to Linda and gets it out to the 800 or 900 addresses we have. The good news is we actually had a response, a favorable response to our query back in July of this year. So we do have some very qualified people who express an interest, and we can build on that, as you said. But I want to get the thing started so we can move forward and not just lose 30 days here and 30 days here. And as Jerry said, anything that's long-term is going to take probably years to come to fruition. So,
I have one more query comment. I know Jerry's talked about it, it's clear that these are two separate committees with two different commissions. However, I do believe there needs to be dialogue between the two committees. And I don't know how that's going to be expedited one way or the other. I know that Jim will be certainly listening to both committees since he's our liaison for the board. But I also think that there needs to be some communication among committee members as well.
Well, I would expect, Karen, I would expect the chairs to communicate, and there's no reason why periodically there might not be a joint meeting between the two for updates, but that all will evolve through the process to me.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
it's just, the idea is if everybody comfortable with having the two different committees.
yeah.
Makes enormous sense to do that, and then the direction really is, what is the expectation out of long-range planning?
Jim, we had, just to be fair to her question, because Mark is sitting there going, yes, we had already suggested that he might even want to be on the other committee to ensure the cross-fertilization. But the point is that there will be a lot of communication between the two.
Okay, board members.
Or since I'm involved in this a little bit, could I say one thing?
Sure.
As I
Like
see
the
it,
mic?
no. As I see it now, the new committee will be ideation, the existing committee will be implementation. And that is the distinction you're making, am I correct?
No.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah, that's
I think that's, one's idea generating, futuristic focus.
He's gonna implement short-term stuff that the long-range planning's gonna step back and say, what do the owners of the community want out of the foundation? They'll interview TAC, they'll interview the Bocce Committee, they'll interview the presidents of board. What do 3,500 people want from our community, and that'll coalesce into what are the implications. We know we're starting to run into space issues out there for cars and in here for people. So what do? And what do people want? And so that's the role of the long-range planning committee, is to come up with a goal, a design, and a recommendation. And then we've got to say, how do we go ahead and do it? And how does it work? And where does the money come from? And what are the implications if we're going to rip this building down and build a new building? We're going to close shop for a year or two. So there are a lot of implications that have to be considered based on what the community's looking for.
But the most important implication right now is to get it started. So I'd like to call for a vote.
Well, one other thing. What you have to be careful of, okay, is having the short-range planners decide to spend dollars, okay, without knowing what the long-term people are looking at. Because why would you go in and make a change in here that's gonna cost $80,000, $100,000, or whatever, and then a year and a half later, tear it down?
But they don't spend any money unless the board approves it.
Yeah,
So,
but if you don't have the coordinating base, okay, you don't know whether you spend the money or not.
The committees are gonna work in coordination with each other. The long-term planning committee will come up with ideas for the future. If they come up with a project, the facilities project committee will come up with how to do that project. Ultimately, both the suggestions by the long-term planning committee and the facilities project committee will come before the board. You're beating this thing to death. It's just common sense. Enough.
so, all in favor of approving it, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Paul, 10.2, design review.
There was one application the design review committee received to the committee to change their entrance sign, Muirfield. The committee looked at it, it's within our specifications, and recommending the board for approval.
Move for approval?
Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, that is carried. Board member comments.
For the next meeting, Dave, I would like to put on the agenda, we have always stated that residents could not be employees of the foundation because there could be conflicts. Otherwise, if I worked here and I had a problem here, we know what the problem is. Will that same criteria apply to contractors who are engaged for services here?
Jim, that has already been changed in the bylaws. There is, the residents, anybody who's a resident is not precluded from being an employee. That was done years ago, and it's in the bylaws.
So residents can work here as employees?
Yes.
I thought they couldn't.
Well, they can. They couldn't, but years ago, I don't know how many years ago, if you look at, if you look at the bylaws, it was changed.
Really?
Well, I would like to see that. That's news to me.
That's news to me too.
Okay.
You can just.
You better show the board.
I don't have them with me.
Why not? I can hear you. Want to look at
Let me
it?
have them.
At any rate, if it's, then it's a moot point, but if residents are not allowed to be employees, I want to ask the same question for discussion at the next board meeting, if that applies to people providing contracted services.
We purposely put it in because we had that issue with residents working here as employees. So we put it in.
Well, that was because when we took over, we had 3 residents that were working at the front desk.
Right.
That may have been a Diana tweet.
No.
It may be, stop. It may be part of the resolutions. I have to look at it. Give me a minute.
Are there other board comments?
Yes.
Go ahead, Jim.
I don't know if anybody's been forced to start exercising. So I've been walking through the community, and while we don't have jurisdiction over the roads, the signs, and the lighting, I'm wondering how much we could pressurize or make the CDD aware of that after 25 years, they have to modernize some of their facilities. The sidewalks in this community are atrocious. I challenge anybody to walk across these sidewalks and not injure themselves, go up and down. You're better off in West Virginia on a hillside. They've gone and ground out, and I know what their problem is. You got trees that have overgrown, okay, lifted it, but the street structure here needs to be rethought about. Okay, the lighting needs to be rethought about. I challenge anybody to come in off of Airport Road, come up to the entrance of Pelican Marsh Boulevard and Bay Laurel Boulevard and see if they could see one of the signs and see what the signs say. You can't. The signs are small, they're outdated, and on top of that, when we gave them some light fixtures, and now that Frank's gone, We gave them light fixtures when I remodeled the parking lot with the expectation that they would use some of those, okay, to change the lighting at that intersection in particular. It's poorly lit, and so is the entrance into the Galleria exit. More people drive by that, okay?
Yeah.
And the reason that Frank didn't care about it is he lived on the other side of the community, okay? Now, I need to think about the fact that we have 3 times the number of people, 5 times the number of people attend our meetings than attend the CDD meetings. But I think maybe we ought to do something for the benefit of the community to pressurize the CDD, because they don't care. They live to that budget situation that they want to live with, and yet this community's going to pot. Okay?
I got a lot of extra shirts, Jerry.
Huh?
I got a lot of extra shirts.
Yeah, well.
Turn it inside out.
Yeah, but the reality of it is that I've been here from day one.
Yeah.
Okay? And I can tell you it's deteriorated beyond recognition. Okay? The criteria for sidewalks is 1/4 inch, okay, to the foot of slope. Okay? I guarantee you that 90% of the sidewalks in here far exceed that. You know, I'm almost tempted to call up the county and say, hey, you know what? We got illegal sidewalks here in the county. Can you do something about it?
Why are they illegal? Help me out.
They're not in properly. They need to be repaired. Okay? The sidewalk can't be like this. Okay? It's got to be with 1/4 inch to the foot. That's usual standards. If you watch what's going on through Collier County, they're building sidewalks to nowhere all along Goodwood Frank Road, Airport Road. You know, they got money they got to spend apparently because they're on areas that nobody uses. But
Okay. Well,
somehow we could. My point is, what can we do?
No, I think you have a great point, and one of the results is people walk in the street now. They jog in the street, they walk in the street.
I walk in the street.
Because they're concerned, and that really represents a problem.
I would encourage you not to walk in the street, because if you walk along the curb and the grading isn't right, there's going to be standing water and that tan and stuff, you're going to fall on your buttocks so fast.
I'm telling
You're going to have a
you,
broken hip.
One thing you do is you go to the CCD, that is you need to sit down with that Walton chairman and say, we've got some issues, and talk with them, because that has not come up at their meeting.
I think maybe we could arrange something with him through our board, directly with him rather than smacking him in the head.
Yeah, I do.
If you'd like to arrange setting that up, that
More
would be great.
responsive than Frank.
Frank was not responsive.
Correct. Frank didn't want to spend any money.
I just want to reiterate my thanks to those who came in today about the computer room specifically, which we were voting on today, and also just for allowing us to take a better look at it, and hopefully the solution will be helpful to those who came, but thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, Bernie, I wasn't aware that that room was shut down months before the communication came out to the board that we were doing it. I walked by there, I never went in there, so I didn't know. But, okay, I'd like to open it up to resident comments. Okay, let's go this way, Bernie.
Bernie DeMontfort again, still living in Claremont. Anybody wants a free shirt, they're excellent for regifting for Christmas. Someone you don't want to give a gift to. But just quickly, I want to ask Paul, we're starting to lock up the bocce balls. And, you know, bocce has really caught on here, and Lynn has done a great job. You have done a great job of moving it along in the community. And there's an awful lot of support for it, but we're locking the balls up. And I'm wondering, why are we locking them up? Because why? Because I could use them in a cannon on my lawn if I had an 1800 cannon, but otherwise, no, seriously, it seems like it's a struggle, and then we are asking the women at the desk, you know, and some may have some health issues, to go out there and lift this stuff. And I was wondering.
Okay, we have temporary padlocks on the cabinetry. We are getting cabinet locks installed for the cabinets. The reason why the locks are for the bocce balls is because so many residents are just not checking in like they're supposed to. So this now requires homeowners wanting to use the facility or the amenity to check in at the desk. Then we give them the key, they get the bocce balls and they play. So this is the way it's for us better, tighter control who's checking in.
So the staff doesn't have to go out and unlock it?
No, when you check in, we'll give them the key
Okay,
to the cabinet, then the member will go out with the cabinet, unlock the cabinet, and get the bocce balls out of the way.
okay.
Hi, I also live in Claremont. I don't want Canada, Claremont. I'm just kidding. My name's Lynn, and I've been dancing. I'm going back to the computer room. I don't know if this is thought about or not, but in terms of usage of printers, I know the county that I live in Ohio, there used to be a problem with people using too much paper and ink. That you got X amount of prints a day, and after that, you pay. So if they're looking into a system, just try to maintain a normal use, not people go crazy. Something maybe like using our key card to check in and use the computer and say, John Smith has done 15 prints today. After 15 prints, you have to pay X amount per print. So people won't just go in there, print and print and print. That's my 2 cents or 10 cents.
Steve?
Steve Burke, Trum. So it's clear to me from listening to your discussion today about the long-range planning committees, the 2 committees, that you guys are still figuring this out. The long-range planning committee plans. It's going to make a plan. It's going to make a comprehensive community-wide plan for Pelican Marsh, looking out decades in the future with the goals of preserving what we have and improving it, hopefully. The other committee is going to be executing that plan, is going to come up with the plans for executing that plan. In other words, my understanding is that the facilities development committee, or whatever you're calling it, is going to be engaged with actually doing stuff in the short term. So they're working on our new basketball complex here, right? So that's kind of the way I see it. Is that the way you guys see it? Okay. So when you sent your email in July, this email you referenced earlier, Dave, about calling for interested parties to participate in a committee that didn't exist yet, there was a lot of confusion about that. I mean, I've heard from a number of people, what are they talking about? What committee, what's going on? Is this an expansion of facilities? What does this mean? So when you say you've gotten a response from folks, I mean, I know there are a number of people here who are eminently well qualified to be on this planning committee who have no idea the committee exists because some of them aren't here today. But I hope that you are going to be calling for interested folks who will apply to the board, to Paul, to be included on this planning thing, because this committee is really where it's all at right here, this long-range planning.
I agree. And the good news is we have some names, but we need to communicate. We need to express our interest in learning who wants to be involved on it with experience and how it can help.
Right.
Again, the committee will be limited to 7 people, but that committee, when they need a specialty in, as I said earlier, in marketing or a specialty in real estate, they can draw from other owners in the community who had that specialization to help get the job done. And that way we stay true to our charter.
Okay, thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, Paul Markarian. I have a question for access to the bocce equipment after hours if it's locked up.
So, I mean, you're basically saying that after we close down at 9 p.m., we're after hours?
It's usually Sundays.
Sunday
Saturdays
close
and
at
Sundays.
what, 6 or something like that?
4 o'clock out of season.
4. So that's something that has to be brought up, it's particularly on Sunday.
We can work that system. I'll talk with Lynn about in front desk, maybe just after we lock up, we'll leave the locks unlocked for the bocce balls.
Or people could come in during hours, grab it, leave.
Or the chairperson of the bocce committee could have a set that they could have available for people to borrow at their house or whatever.
There's a combination.
Well, the combination will be to everybody for 3 weeks.
Maybe one segment.
I would suggest that wait a minute, to follow up on that, you have a bocce committee chairman. I would have the bocce committee chairman sit down with Paul and say, how can we work this out?
Okay.
Tennis has a similar issue with lighting at night and checking out the key. Why not follow the same procedure for lighting?
That's what I was saying, yep. Thank you. Any other comments? Gary?
Well, Paul, could you go to that first slide that Ken had? I missed one number on that balance sheet. How much is in the reserve? Keep going, the one more, okay. There it is. So the reserve has 275 in it now, even though you put in around 318, 320 this year. Okay. If you go to the next page, if you add.
Yes, well, because we used some.
You must use about $50,000 for
We
something.
did. We, among other things, had some air conditioners that decided to go.
Just double checking what's going on.
I know.
Thank you.
Steve?
One other thing from the tennis committee. So we're having an issue with key fob compliance, which you guys have probably heard about. And I'm just wondering what the board thinks about enforcement of this rule. So in other words, there's no really elegant way. We don't have a front door like they do at fitness, right? So you're not getting exactly, talking to Patrick about this the other day, he said that he, for some time before the key fob thing went up, he would eyeball the traffic in there, and he had an estimate of utilization of the fitness center that turned out to be grossly underestimated. So when he actually got data from the key fobs, he's like, whoa, this is amazing, we're getting really high utilization here. Since utilization is linked to asset allocation, or rather capital allocation for these programs, we want to make sure that we represent our programs, pickleball and tennis, so you get an accurate picture of who's using these things. Right. The question is, some people are resistant to doing this because it hasn't been that way for the centuries they've been here. And so my question to you guys is, do you have an idea, as the board discussed, how there can help Johan administratively enforce this desire you guys have to use the key fobs?
I would,
are there going to be consequences for non-use?
yeah, well, I think that's all on the table. I mean, everybody wants to have good numbers. So we have told Paul, the board has told Paul, that we want good metrics. He's passed that message along. Paul has told the ladies that work in the front, or our employees that work at the front, that if somebody walks in and doesn't go to the gym, but doesn't use their fob, that they should ask them to present their ID and so forth. If they don't, then Paul should be notified, and Paul should have a conversation with that owner that they should be doing that each and every time. And it may be a situation where Johan needs to do a like process for pickleball people who may be heretofore have not been involved and don't know they're supposed to do it, and tennis players who have just gotten comfortable with the status quo. And I remember years ago, Bill Carey stormtrooping through under the tent telling people, did you scan your card? Did you scan your card? You know, sometimes you got to jump start it like that, and it may sound a little rude, but that's how you're going to get good numbers.
But, let me make a point, because I've had conversations with Johan on this subject. My concern, quite frankly, Steve, was how do we find out who's pickleball and who's tennis? And he said in terms of tennis, he can backstop the information because either you have to register online or they have hard copy spreadsheets where they record all of the court usage. And he, over a few months ago, actually did a summary. And he felt in the short run, he could help us out, short run only. So I said, well, what are you going to do about pickleball? Because they can come in the back door without ever being seen, get on the court, especially during the free court time. So it's an open problem that we're still working on. And
we've talked about putting a reader back there on the pickleball court, but it has to have cover and it has to have Bluetooth and it has, of course, the new Wi-Fi system will be helpful there, I would think, but it has to have power.
Right.
And then it has to be utilized. So, what do you do? Put a camera on it? I mean, it's really...
It's learned behavior. It's people having to change their behavior.
How about sign? Little signs.
Well, we have big signs, check in. It's an open item. I
I've
think
got
we
signs
can
that
get
direct people in the parking lot and they still go the wrong way.
I think we need to get a little closer with tennis. I'm more concerned that we're nowhere near a solution.
Dean?
Hi, Dean Larson, area. This is really important for, when you talk about long-range planning, your source is so important to determine not only what you're hearing from the community, but actual facts when you're going to allocate money or try to find it. So I think it's really, really important to determine a system that will be able to determine, okay, are people coming to the center for coffee? That's just a joke. But I'm saying, are they coming here for pickleball? Are they coming here for lessons? Are they coming here for activities, bocce, tennis? You're going to have to figure out something that's going to help the long-range committee, because you could just be, oh, we'd love to have a room that does this, and if there's no demand for it, it may sound really good for the future, but there may not be anything for it.
You need
So
the data.
the data is so important. Just like when you do the long-range committee, you're going to have someone who's going to find every square inch of this community's property to determine what we actually have that's available before you even start thinking about something. Because what good is it if you don't have space? The data is really important.
Al?
Al Sterner, Ventura. On the subject of key fob diligence, for the uncooperative owner who's irate because they've lived here for 2 years or 20 years or whatever it is, I don't think we should put that on anybody that's on the payroll. There's 7 board members. You've got an uncooperative owner. One of you have a private conversation with that owner and say there's consequences here. The 7 of you are absolutely bulletproof. The 20 or so people that are on the payroll are not bulletproof. Don't put it on Johan, don't put it on Paul, etc.
And don't put it on the receptionist to ask every single person. That's really not being fair. I have to change my t-shirt to protect the receptionist.
Okay.
Receptionist.
Dean?
Yeah, you know, the lock that's getting put on, and just think about it, registering and after hours, is that lock, how costly is it to have the key fob that is used here activate a lock, a magnetic lock or an electronic lock on that? Would that be costly? So that's a way to get accountability.
Well, you put that handicap, you got that handicap thing that's gonna open it up. Isn't it?
That's required.
You gotta, I mean, it's a problem.
We have the very beginnings of an attempt to collect data, and we're finding we have a lot of soft spots, and we just have to keep working on it, because like everyone says, we pull numbers out of the air or other places that we're not sure how accurate they are, and we're getting ready to make some very big decisions as to where we want to go. And so we said, let's take this winter season, do the best we can, learn where the problems are, and continue to work on a better management control information. But it's going to be an ongoing issue.
I'm going to ask.
You have the Comcast, you still got 250 people, you know, how do you?
Down to 200 now, that's good.
Well, that's good.
Jeff, would you update us on
Yes,
your
I
research?
mean, you asked the question whether the foundation was precluded from hiring folks who live within the community.
Yes.
I said the answer is no. I said it's in the bylaws. And if you look at section 4, 4.02, under powers of the board, it says appoint and remove at its pleasure, all officers, so on and so forth. The last sentence says, nothing in these bylaws shall be construed to prohibit the employment of any member, officer, or director of the foundation in any capacity whatsoever.
When did that change take place?
That's something we ought to change.
Hearing no further business, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Have a great holiday, everybody. See you after the first of the year.
Yeah, morning, I'm here.
Yeah, I know what you're doing.
So it was in Shannon's stuff?
I've known that for almost 20 years. Okay, he's a different type of guy. He's a lot more open in his thought process than Frank and I. Oil and water, he and I, that's a done. When he was president on the board, I showed his ass out, and I argued with him. Yeah, but the community is supposed to help me out. Well, what I want to do is, that would be Kevin.
Well, we've got realtors that are telling us how to write time. Well, we're gonna get this committee going and just get a page.
All right, I was so
Page.
Yes.